up with that, raise your hand if you're focusing the market in the US versus internationally, since one person. So can you each talk about where your markets are focused and where you're focusing on in the market?
Yeah, Korea primarily, and I'd say secondarily China.
Okay.
But that's more of a function, I think, just because of the openness to adoption from corporates in those countries compared to the US.
Gotcha. And you have a team there?
We don't, but we spend enough time there that we probably should.
Okay.
But yeah, like our initial partners are primarily Korean, NBN, part of MK Network, and Samsung's our early investor in that. So increasingly our focus is Korea.
Cool.
To quote Winston Churchill, America always does the right thing after it is exhausting all other options, right? And I was afraid to even come to San Francisco. Like when the border control asked me with his gun, why are you here? I'm like, FinTech conference. Like I think coming back to your question about America, I mean, it's really sad the way the government is really hindering and causing a lot of FUD, right? And so that's why, our internal projections are between 1 year to 18 months. So my first Bitcoin started was 2014, and after Mt. Gox, the whole market went sideways for 2.5, 3 years. So I don't think things are going to be led by America. I think Singapore is releasing some legislation Q1 next year. I think there's a lot of forward progress in Japan. So Japan is starting to lift the whitelist, so you can have new tokens listed in Japan. So I think all of the leadership is going to really come from Asia, or Africa and Malta and places like that, where they actually have to move forward for their economies.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty textbook case in general of regulatory arbitrage, where if you can go somewhere else where there's a more favorable environment, you will. But I'm surprised the SEC didn't see that, especially in the decentralized organizations and teams that are across the world, it's very easy to just move to where you have a more hospitable environment. That's exactly what's happened.
Well, I think the need for the use case is just wildly different by economy, right? If you talk about sort of the everyday need for a stable currency, which you own, no one's going to sort of take it or freeze your bank account or whatever it is. It's just not really a problem that most people have in America, right? That's why you're never going to use Bitcoin to really buy coffee. And so the problem, so to speak, or the opportunities for the technology in America really kind of boil down to bringing new assets online, so securitization, that whole framework, right? Because at the very least, it makes Wall Street cheaper, faster, easier to settle. If you're talking about the existing world of securities, and if you're talking about sort of new asset classes, well, it's a very deep capital market. I'd probably love to get the ability to exposure to like tokenized real estate as a classic example and many other things, right? So I think it's blockchain is just a technology. Yes, there's many variances in it, but then the way it's adopted is going to vary by geography based on kind of what the challenges each economy has. And then, so when you're talking about sort of truly consumer mass adoption, then you have to look to see where do people have these everyday challenges, and it's probably just not here in the US.
I personally think that we had mass adoption, which was crypto trading before. So that was mass adoption, I think. One type of mass adoption, because Koreans, like 7 or 8 out of 10, they were trading like Ethereum or Bitcoin. So we had mass adoption. We want the level of consumer penetration for the actual application case that we're building right now. I want to see that. And obviously there are these verticals where everybody kind of ready to see that adoption. I think that happens in logistics or contents. There are these verticals where everybody's waiting, where is this blockchain mass adoption? So I think within the verticals, I think it's easier because people are ready to receive that kind of solution. So good luck with those people that who are playing with that field. But then for the generic mass adoption, I want that to happen in more let's say, payment or investing platform or something like that, that people use it in a daily kind of in the field that let's say that if there is any app that we open a couple times a day, and then that was blockchain kind of technology app that you have to open it at least a couple times a day, I really want to see that. So I'm waiting any of you to make that, and I'm optimistic, but execution is a little bit harder than talking about it, because a lot of the blockchain ideas are become a little bit of obstacle when you want to scale it out, because all these, our visionary ideas, it was beautiful when we talked about it, but when you actually want to execute it, then suddenly it become an obstacle for your traction. So now, like, welcome to reality. So.
There's nowhere to pass your mic along. Meg, did you have something to say?
What was the question again?
So the question was your focus market in the U.S.?
So people like cats in the US and they like cats in China. They like cats in Korea. They like cats everywhere. No, but generally, when we look at mass adoption, we're looking at the consumer use case. I think that third world countries, it has its own use case. I think the barriers there just to get technology in their hands in the first place is really, really high. So we think the first wave of adoption will come from things that people can easily understand and things that people can easily adopt. So we think entertainment is a great place to start because you're going from digital to digital. It's easy for people to understand, and there are some actual use cases that make the experiences themselves more valuable than a centralized world, so we can go in and explore that.
Gotcha. We are almost running out of time, and I want to be conscious of people's...
Do we have any questions from the crowd? Does anyone have any questions about mainstreaming or adoption? We've got 8 experts here, all of us
I
vying.
do have one question, which is, what do you think, where do you see the adoption will happen next year? Name one industry or one field. Everyone, go. It doesn't have to be in order if you need some time to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, especially next year, I don't think we're going to see anything widespread. I would think it's going to be much more narrowly focused niches that gain adoption. But as far as seeing anything widespread, I think it'll probably take more time. Can't think of any specific vertical.
I think gaming is potentially one of the first widespread adoptions. If you have like a Fortnite with 75 million MAUs and they introduce an item on non-fungible tokens, something like that, they could do it. With the caveat, obviously, that no blockchain can handle 75 million MAUs trading tokens right now. But it seems like a really obvious example to me.
Our company was focusing on payment, especially the low-cost carrier airlines, that they were very lack of whatever the internal airline service. So we're providing solution for them to do the payment, purchase, or whatever, the Wi-Fi, whatever. So we're focusing on the payment, specifically within the airline industry.
So do you think the airlines industry will see a massive...
You already signed a contract with the Theta airline. That was the first start.
Gotcha.
I think that now that we've gotten to about an 85% retracement or more of Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin's likely to drop even further, down to probably somewhere in the thousands. And if that's the case, then I think the biggest adoption story in 2019 is going to be the oldie but goodie, Bitcoin.
What was that? That's a good one. I don't think we're going to start seeing mass adoption until we start building better products that serve people. And we stop talking in our echo chambers and building essentially things that are just for ourselves. So we need a huge amount of new talent to come into the industry to build great experiences that are way better than what we have today before we're going to see any adoption. The good news is that those people are coming, so I think we'll see, it'll be 2 to 3 years till we start seeing interesting things.
So you don't think we'll see that many fields with mass adoption next year?
No, frankly, no. I think that you've got some interesting teams that are coming into the space right now that are going to start building. But when we look at so if you look at the US, like the most popular Dapper today is a...
No, but that's right.
It's what's it called? It's a dice roll game.
Yeah, it's dice.
Yeah. It's a multi-level marketing scheme. And it's so dangerous for the industry because all these people are going to come in, this is going to be the first time they ever experience the world of decentralization, and they're going to get ripped off. Or like FOMO'd, or like whatever. Like these are the things that we're coming up with, and they don't resonate with anybody outside the world. And if these people happen to come in, they're just going to lose all their money. We need to do way better at protecting new people who come into our industry and give them delightful experiences.
And to second that, I think if people can get exposure to crypto without having to buy it, I actually think that's really critical. Because the more that people have to go and buy this stuff, it means that there's the potential to lose money. And people are always more unhappy when they lose money than when they make money, which means that, no, seriously, that's why insurance works. We're all risk-averse beings. And so if that's the case, then if you require everyone to buy into this, your expected consumer happiness is negative, and that's pretty bad for adoption.
Yeah, in terms of adoption, we're actually most excited about one of the most traditional industries out there, electric utilities and power transmission and distribution. And we're engaging with a number of utilities companies in Europe on a wide range of use cases, from smart charging of electric vehicles to transactive energy framework to P2P energy trading to management of energy consumption of large industrial assets. And I was surprised when we started working on that how receptive they are in terms of trying to innovate their current business.
Yeah, that is very surprising given that such industry is usually backwards or slow moving, but that sounds very exciting now that you mentioned it that way.
So, I mean, contrary to some of the panelists, I'm really optimistic about next year actually. I think in a depressed market is when you get the real teams building real tech, able to ship things without being inundated with various types of community input, which sometimes is not helpful. So what we're really excited about, so for example in Tokyo, Sony PlayStation only use 9% of the day, 91% of the time they sit idle, but they have a very powerful chip. That chip can be used for compute. Similarly, HTC, we've had several meetings and they said if we're able to get Android support by Q1, they'll ship embedded in their new phones, Perlin. And so and Earn.com, for example, or any of these CryptoKitties, any of these projects could potentially embed the income earnings. So to what Lily said, if we are able to generate income, so in 12 months time, for the next WDAS, I'll stand by my promise, which is we'll ship mainnet. And with our first pilot with Telkomsel, where there's 180 million potential users, as soon as some people start earning $100, $200, we think that income generation opportunities are what's going to be viral. So I'm actually quite bullish to say that I think, particularly if a decentralized approach can mitigate or reduce prices versus a centralized competitor. So AWS is currently running at over 68 times the cost of their energy, and think Jeff Bezos to set up an AWS, they need to rent out a warehouse, put the air conditioning, buy all the computers. All you need to do is switch on your laptop and leave it running at nighttime. So those types of examples where you're disrupting fat, oligopolistic, centralized services, and people can earn money, and it's going to be the same as any other, like download an app, run it. So I'm bullish. Perlin.net, if you're interested, come see me. And I think that there are going to be services like that which will actually rise to the fore in the next 12 months.
Great. Let's give a round of applause for our great panelists, guys. Thank you, everyone. That was great. And we'll wrap up now.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Mass adoption is, again, one of the most interesting topics to me personally as well. Last but not the least, we have our last keynote speaker of day one. Chris Wang is CEO and co-founder of Thunder Core. And Thunder Core, our Thunder token, has high throughput and confirmed transaction